IT Expo Miami 2009.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rich Tarani. I want to welcome you to today's lunch, which is titled HD, What's the Noise and Are We Ready? For those of you that heard me speak in the keynote a little bit earlier, we have a very interesting situation in the communication space. We see some of the latest newfangled devices in people's hands. Like I see some people have Blackberries and iPhones and Microsoft-based devices, Nokia, etc. Really state-of-the-art devices that have supercomputing power in them. If you were to go back 10 years, the amount of horsepower you have in a small device is like the supercomputer from back then, a decade ago. And it seems everything is evolving so quickly, except the actual quality of voice that goes over the PSTN and the voice that most of us hear. So the question is, how do we get voice to get to the next level, and what is the next level? Is the next level three-dimensional stereophonic sound? I think that at some point soon, yes. I think all voice calls that go over broadband will be three-dimensional and they will be stereophonic. But for now, we've got the next best thing, which is HD, which is a tremendous step up from PSTN quality, which is about half a century old in terms of technology. We've assembled a panel of experts who can really help us delve into this technology. Now, granted, we've got 30 minutes to do it, but still, this should give us a good overview of what's going on with this technology and the opportunities. So what I'm going to do is give the panelists each an opportunity, 60 seconds, to tell us about them and just a little bit about their companies. But I also want you guys to know that if you have any questions, they're extremely welcome. Just raise your hand, let me know. We want to make this a two-way forum. So if you don't have questions, I always have questions, so I'll lead it. So we'll work together, and hopefully we'll make this a fantastic session. And with that, we're going to start with Debbie, who's going to kick things off and tell us about herself.
Hi, I'm Debbie Greenstreet with Texas Instruments, and we provide the core technology for a lot of the voice over IP applications. That is the silicon and the core software running in there from anywhere from IP phones to the infrastructure gateway platforms, media gateways. And we're very excited about HD voice because we see that this technology is fundamentally here and has been for quite some time, and see it as an opportunity to really catapult the market, the voice over IP technology and solutions and services into a space that's well beyond what the PSTN can ever achieve in audio quality. And a lot of it is just really a challenge of consumers not knowing about that yet, and that we can achieve near conversational quality over telephone devices, whether they're fixed line or mobile devices. So very excited about helping to move this technology forward into reality.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Yankee. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Polycom. In the fall of 1996, Polycom introduced the first HD voice IP telephone, our SoundPoint IP650. And we have since that time deployed HD voice through almost our entire voice over IP product line. We're very excited about 2009. I strongly believe that it's going to be a tipping point in terms of HD voice. We're seeing our call control partner providers, our service providers, all starting to deploy and offer services that leverage HD voice. And there's new technologies, there's new proliferation of open standards in regards to HD voice. I think that's all going to, as Debbie said, propel us forward into the future. And I think HD voice is here, and I think people are starting to experience it. And once they hear it, it's just like HD TV. You can't go back.
Good afternoon. My name is James Awad. I'm the product manager responsible for media gateway products at Octasic. So Octasic is a fabless semiconductor company where we focus on media gateway DSP products, but we also have an algorithmic approach to these solutions. So wideband is important. It's important to have a nice checklist of all your wideband codecs, but Octasic takes it a step further, making sure that all the algorithms that go with it, whether it be echo cancellation or wideband bandwidth extension, to improve the sound of those wideband codecs, come along with it, part and parcel.
My name is Jan Linden. I'm the VP of Engineering on Global IP Sound, or Global IP Solutions, sorry, or GIPS, as we're better known as. I'll stand up so you see me over there as well. So we are a company that provides voice and video technology that gets integrated into other solutions. You never see a product of ours, but especially when we talk wideband, we've really been instrumental in making that happen because we've designed a number of codecs that were used in what has been the biggest deployment by far this far, that's Skype, IBM, Google Talk, Yahoo, QQ, etc., all on the desktop, being driven by our technology that is wideband in all these cases. So we're definitely very interested in this going forward.
My name is Alan Percy. I'm Director of Market Development for Audio Codes. We're a 600-person technology company based in Israel, focused on DSP technology, media gateways, other enabling technologies, media servers, et cetera, for voice over IP applications. This last fall, we launched our new HD initiative we call HD VoIP, focused on taking this HD application and be able to bring it to the market at new density levels. We launched a new product line of media servers that can do conferencing in wideband. We also launched a new set of transcoding resources so that wideband applications can talk to other wideband and other narrowband applications. And we also launched a new line of IP-based phones that allow us to deliver a complete solution to the customer. So we're real excited to be here, and Rich, thanks for pulling this all together.
Thanks for being here.
My name is William Bumbernick. I'm the CEO of Altiva. We are the North America's largest provider of hosted enterprise telephony. We provide, or we consume, the services that everybody else on the panel creates for us. I'm here representing the application side. How does HD voice affect business today? Aside from the wonderful technology that comes into creating it, how can businesses really capitalize on the enhancements of HD voice and create efficiencies out of it?
Thank you, guys. Okay, first question. What is HD voice? Anyone want to take that?
Well, it's a very good question because there is no definition. And it's more a marketing term that has been introduced by some of the people around me here. But basically, I think what it is when you go beyond what we used to from the PSTN narrowband voice. So I include wideband, super wideband, full band, anything that's a more higher fidelity, basically broader spectrum of frequencies are in the transmitted signal, and therefore it sounds much better.
Okay, so basically, explain that to me in terms of voice coders. Who wants to take that in terms of just the voice coders and the differences between narrow and wideband?
So just real quickly, the typical narrowband codec, either in PSTN or in G.711 or G.729, is capturing approximately 3.3 kilohertz of the voice spectrum that you speak when you're talking. And the problem with only 3.3 kilohertz of the entire frequency range of your voice is that you're missing out on a lot of the voice energy that is used to distinguish things from accents from different people. It's certain consonants you miss out on. And so the person hearing you is actually having to fill in those gaps during the conversation. And as you know, in today's multilingual world, that gets harder and harder. You get fatigued from listening to those kinds of things. A wideband codec captures a greater amount of that voice spectrum. The G.722 codec captures 7 kilohertz, and then there's also ITU standards today that capture 14 kilohertz and then all the way up to 20 kilohertz in terms of the extra bandwidth.
Maybe if I can...
Please do.
If I can add something, Rich. We did a short talk yesterday, a session on HD voice or HD audio, and there was another aspect that I tried to bring to the table, which is this convergence between speech codecs and music codecs. So I think today we're going to focus on speech codecs. They've been based on a fundamental technology called KELP, or CELP, C-E-L-P, which tries to model the way our throat, our pharynx works and creates sounds. And there's this whole other set of codecs that we use every day for DVDs, for watching movies and all that. And they're trying to bring those two camps together so that when you have a conversation with someone and they're in a loud restaurant or they're listening to a movie, anything that's not speech doesn't come through as noise, okay? Like the plates clanging or music playing in the background. So you really get the feel that you're there with that person. So there's this interesting trend as we move to more advanced codecs, such as the stuff for LTE, 4G stuff, where you're going to see a mix between the speech guys and the entertainment guys coming together, or even fighting each other to make sure their camp is the one that gets their standard in, but essentially we're going to get a better feel for what's going on at the other end, not just the words that are being said.
So I think in a way to translate what they've said technically and how we would experience this is basically the difference that you've noticed when you're speaking on a phone to someone and then when you're speaking live, right, person to person. So the goal here is to really be able to achieve that in-person experience of conversation and or music, background noise, things like that. And we just get so used to using the telephone, and we've grown up with that, knowing that we have to repeat ourselves often, or we have to listen harder, or have it a little bit louder to focus a little bit more on the conversation. So really the ultimate outcome of this would be to have your phone, your device, be giving you the experience as if you were talking to the person face to face.
Yeah, so basically in the future nobody should have to know what is Nancy for N, is it A for Adam for A, etc. All that redundancy you have to add when you are telling somebody something to make sure it gets through. That is because of the limitations in the PSTN phone system. So that's the goal.
You know, it's interesting to listen to the technology behind it, but let me ask a question. Who here watched the Super Bowl last week? Almost everybody? Who watched it on a standard definition television set? Right? So what we're talking about with HD Voice is really user experience. It's the experience that the end user gets. When they pick up the handset and they make the call and they have the conversation, the experience is a much richer experience. It's the same reason that entertainment has evolved through HD video technologies that we need to evolve voice technologies. Altiva focuses very heavily on application side of our voice services platform. So not only do we provide the switching, but we provide custom application development to really enhance what we do. We work on products that are now being enhanced by HD Voice. We have call recording products and voice recognition products that we have a much higher success rate on an HD Voice call than we do on a traditional G711 or G729 call. So it's not just a better experience. With that better experience will come tremendous improvements in functionality.
So if I'm a corporation, the question I have is, I mean, we know why we go out and buy HD TVs, because we see them somewhere and we like them, and we like how our sports looks or our movies look, right? Our DVDs, whatever. How do you translate that into business to explain to a business person why they need to allocate X% more budget or to rip and replace so that they can take advantage of this technology? What the cost-benefit analysis?
So let me jump on that. What we've been hearing from some of the early adopters, and by the way, there are a number of places where HD is already penetrated into the market, and a couple examples of that are Skype and Microsoft OCS. And what people are telling us is that they see much improved efficiency because of the fact that the fidelity reduces errors and eliminates many of the sort of the 50 versus 15 problem.
Right.
So we are hearing some of those initial responses, but the reality is for many of the service providers and folks that are selling solutions that are probably here in the room, the big advantage is now you can go out and sell something that actually justifies unplugging from the PSTN and improves the spend because it's perceived as a better product than a legacy product. So now you finally have a chance to replace that legacy equipment and have a good justification for it. So that's why we're seeing the adoption, we believe, in the market today.
Any other comments on that?
Yeah, I think another an area that Polycom is very familiar with is conferencing. And HD makes an incredible difference when you're sitting 5 people around a room and you want to make sure that the people on the other end of the phone can identify who's speaking when. So HD adds a tremendous amount to that conferencing area, making your conference calls that much more productive and clear. Again, eliminating those mistakes, and maybe not so much, 15 and 50, but also whether it's the CEO talking versus his administrative assistant talking. So those are that's another area that I think benefits.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just to come back from the bottom up again, from a technology perspective, people are realizing that no one enjoys going through a forklift upgrade, throwing everything out. So at the same time, they've developed codecs that can be backwards compatible. So there's wideband codecs, for example, G711 has been extended to wideband, but in what's called an embedded fashion. In other words, I can strip out the wideband portion if I don't understand it and continue to function in narrowband situations. And it's so well designed that in conferencing applications, you can mix them properly in wideband and only send the narrowband portion to the people who don't understand wideband. So You won't have to throw everything out. Everyone who has a terminal that supports it will be happy, but the narrowband people will get as good as they were getting before.
Rich, I think part of what you were asking is how is it quantifiable? How does a decision maker choose HD voice over traditional voice? And to answer that, you really need to understand the buying process, right? So if somebody is buying a new telephony solution today, especially in this economy, they're one of two buyers really. They're either a buyer that embraces new technology and sees the enhancements that VoIP and HD voice can bring, so they're going to buy the technology anyway. It's the buyer who's being forced into the acquisition. The Y2K buyers, the people that bought PBXs in 1999 because they were afraid they weren't going to work in the year 2000, and now they're forced with a situation where their PBX is becoming dated. They need to replace the equipment. So now it's those buyers that really make the ultimate decision on choosing voice or HD voice or not HD voice. And a good way to quantify that is through application enhancement. Let's talk about that time frame. So here we are in 2009. They've had a PBX system for 9 years. They're feeling the pain of the old equipment. And they're at a crossroads. They can either choose HD or not HD. And it's incrementally cost. I mean, the cost is really not that different between the two handsets, at least in our example. But that is a 9-year expiration period for their PBX services. So as applications evolve, voice recognition evolves, voice transcription evolves, and telephony, because we're not just talking about traditional telephone usage anymore. We're talking about the true integration between telephony and business process, between telephony and workflow, between telephony and management oversight. And to really get that capability as a company goes forward, you need to embrace the technologies that are available today to make sure that you capitalize or you maximize your business's capability to use those enhanced applications. Because if you choose traditional voice and not HD voice, it's likely that if you go into a voice recognition application, your recognition rates are going to drop by 12, 15%. You know, your costs go up because now you're having to review 15% more calls because of words that were said in those calls that were inadequately recognized.
If I could just interject then,
Sorry.
Does that mean the contact center is a natural place for this sort of technology?
Absolutely, absolutely. So,
does everyone agree on the panel? Yeah, it's one of the areas. Okay, are there what other areas are there that are just naturals for this technology?
Yeah, so as mentioned, conferencing is the first one where you really see the benefit. Contact centers, speech recognition definitely gets a tremendous improvement of that. And then I guess the negative is when you do person-to-person calls that they tend to get longer because you actually, it's much more pleasant than you sit and talk for a longer time.
Well, it depends on if you're billing by the minute. Then it's not a negative.
But definitely, I mean, we've done that for 10 years now, used HD voice all the time, and you actually see that you are much less tired. And so I think it starts with those cases where it makes the clear benefit, and then you start wanting, I want that for my other calls as well.
Okay.
I can't just, but you wouldn't drive it from that direction. That's not where it's...
So here's another question which kind of throws our argument out the door. More and more calls are being made over cellular networks. How does that impact this panel?
Well, the cellular brings a tremendous opportunity as well to support the HD voice. I mean, there's the vocoders that we can be using for both the fixed line or the traditional, the IP side, into the cellular, and especially as we get to 3G and 4G opportunities, that's just going to be a natural convergence there. So that will give us even a better opportunity to, you know, regardless of which calls we're making.
So what you're talking about then is you're telling me that we now have an opportunity to go to the carriers and the consumers and tell them now that they can have a better quality mobile calling experience, right?
Exactly.
So I have a theory about that, though. So when mobile came around, you started accepting lower quality, longer delays because it's mobile. So people got used to that lower quality. And has for a long time actually been a problem in introducing other better technologies. But now you're getting, it's not a new thing anymore. Mobility is something that you expect. And the expectations on quality started to increase there. And the HD is definitely one of those that will come very soon as a demand. But until now, it hasn't been on that side anything you expect.
Now, is this good for the "can you hear me now" guy, or is it bad?
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you imagine being the first service provider who delivers wideband on a mobile handset, the huge differentiation that provides? You can imagine how that would draw attention to them way beyond "can you hear me now" or way beyond the pin drop sort of campaign.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Orange in the UK. Orange in the UK has announced that they're going to start deploying in January. So basically, they've started wideband on their mobile network.
It's fantastic. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to have you please join me in thanking the panel for a great job. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful